Welcome back to Hey Girl Hey, Life Through the Lens of Female Friendship. I'm your host, Becky Kessler-Sykes, and my guest today is Martha Hayes. Martha is a writer and professional organizer. She's an English expat now living in Los Angeles with her husband and their adorable daughter, Maggie. They were a family at my little schoolhouse before it closed, and I'm so excited to get to know Martha more deeply in our conversation today. I've always admired her calm presence, her thoughtful perspective, and the creative intention she brings to the way she lives her life. So let's get right to it. Welcome, Martha. Hey, girl. Hey.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy that you're here. So I'm hoping that we could start with you telling us a little bit about your journey from the UK to Los Angeles, what inspired the move, and what were some of the biggest adjustments along the way? Because I imagine it was a pretty big culture shock.
It was a culture shock. We lived in London for about 13 years. We were settled, we got married, and we just bought our first house. We were trying for a baby, and the opportunity felt really exciting, but we were very sort of settled. But my mother had just passed away 2 years prior, so I kind of almost took it as this kind of sign of something else. And it's hard to talk about the adjustment to LA without talking about the first year in terms of what was thrown at us, because it was a really intense time. So basically we'd been here about 9 months when the pandemic hit, and obviously so we were in lockdown. And around that time, just before the pandemic hit, I just had an infertility diagnosis. We'd been trying for a while, and I just found out that I wasn't a viable candidate for IVF. So it was a lot to kind of get my head around, and it wasn't what I imagined our life was going to sort of look like. But just to throw another kind of more drama in there, a few months later, my husband Chris was diagnosed with colon cancer. So 3 huge things happening in that awful year that everyone remembers. But I think it sort of forced us to kind of slow down and sort of reassess what mattered. But then by the end of that year, we had gone forward with donor eggs, and we did. I did achieve a pregnancy by the end of that year. So there was this kind of hope coming out of a horrible time, and that's kind of my story really in terms of adjusting to LA life. It was
That's intense.
We had a really intense year, and yeah.
And I'm assuming Chris's health now has leveled out as well, and the dream of Maggie came true, which we're going to touch on a little bit later too. Wow.
But it's really interesting now, I think, looking back. Kind of, it's been 7 years. It was such an uncertain beginning, but it really kind of gave us this foundation for the life that we have now, which is, a completely different life.
So you're a writer, or you were a writer. I don't know how I should refer to that. When did writing first become part of your life?
Yeah, it's funny because I've had a career change, which we'll talk about, but I am a writer and I'll always be a writer, and that's kind of the way I see it. Even though I do something different with my days now.
Right.
I think writing's always been a part of who I am. I was a child who wrote, always wrote diaries, was always writing poems and little stories. I was a very thoughtful child. I lost my dad when I was 12, and I think I can kind of pinpoint that as an experience when I realised that I could use writing as a way of sort of helping me process emotions and experiences and what was kind of going on. And I just think I never really lost that. And then sort of as a teenager, I was obsessed with magazines and kind of put the two things together.
Right.
By the time I was in my 20s, I'd become a journalist, and I was writing for magazines and newspapers in the UK, based in London. I worked on various publications, and I was entertainment editor at Marie Claire in the UK.
Oh, wow.
And then after 5 years of doing that, I actually went freelance. And it's funny because this year is 20 years since I first started journalism path. I think it's just always going to be somewhere that's like a kind of safe space for me to kind of go and make sense of things,
Make sense of the world. I completely relate. I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm a songwriter.
Do you?
Okay. Yeah. And so it started my writing started in the same way. It was short stories and poetry, and I had so many feelings and I didn't know what to do with all of them. And I realized the culture that I came from didn't always feel like they could hold them. I felt like too much. And so I would write and write and write. And then I thought, I want to share this stuff, but I don't want to be the strange girl at the party that's like, can I read my poem to you? So I figured out how to play the guitar because I could sing as well. And I'm like, that's the kind of writer that I'll be. That's how I'll get it out. Yeah, yeah.
That's so
So
nice.
I completely relate. It's how we get through the world.
Absolutely. It's almost like I'm so glad that I had that. You know, yeah.
Me too. And I don't really recall who I was before I did that. Like it sort of developed my own unique identity. Yeah. I just feel like I was blank before that. So I have read online your journey to motherhood in an article, and it's such a unique, challenging, and beautiful story that resulted in Sweet Maggie. And I know you've touched on it a little bit, but is there any more that you could share with our listeners about that meaningful chapter and the influence it's had on everything since?
Yeah, I mean, I've written about it, and again, just going back to the writing thing, I think it was my way. It's my way of processing things when things happen. But yeah, I wrote about the journey to Maggie. It was long and it was difficult. Going through infertility, especially going through that, you know, in a new country. You know, we hadn't long been here, like I kind of said before. It was really hard because we were kind of told that, like, you know, if we wanted to have a pregnancy and bring a child into the world that way, our only hope would be to use somebody else's egg. So that was kind of like a bit of a hard thing to kind of get my head around. Mm-hmm. So it was a grieving process. It was very sort of confronting, I suppose, the whole thing. And it was in that year of COVID. So right. It almost feels like a dream now when I think back to that time. But you know, as I've written about as well, I just realized how much more resilient I was than I thought. Like it was, and also I think I kind of realized how little control we have over things. So I think that's actually a really good thing for me as a person. And you know, when Maggie was here, it just made sense. It was like everything had kind of happened for a reason. It was just this like extraordinary joy from this really, really horrible time.
I have a follow-up question that's just come to mind for me, which is, I know the other unexpected part of your journey to motherhood was not having your mom there alongside you for that journey. And in thinking about that, I'm thinking about my own mother and how much closer we became when I became a mother, how much more I felt understood and how much more I understood her. And it was very healing. And even though your mom had passed, did you feel closer to your mother? Did you feel like you understood her more in becoming a mother yourself, even though she wasn't with you?
Yeah, but I actually found that really hard. Sure. I just feel like my mum brought up 4 children on her own. I have just so many unanswered questions. So it's a painful thing, actually. But it also, I try not to kind of dwell on it in a kind of, I just have so much respect and appreciation, like love for her and what it must. I just wish that we could talk about it. Because I just don't know how she did it. Yeah, and she was incredible.
How has becoming a mother influenced the way you think about home and the spaces you create for your family? As we kind of segue into organization a little bit.
Love the segue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think motherhood, sort of having Maggie, made me much more aware of the atmosphere that I was creating at home and the feeling that home should give you. I became more intentional in terms of the space that we created. I wanted it to feel calm and comforting. You know, everything in my home has a place. It's not perfect. I'm not kind of, you know, I'm not a complete neat freak. That's just me trying to keep this kind of like calm, intentional things where they should be kind of space. But,
and I don't know if you find this, but I've had this argument with my husband many times because he'll be like, why do you control the home and like where everything goes and how it's decorated and things like that? I don't mean to be controlling. It's more, I think women are almost hardwired to oversee the home because that was all we were allowed to oversee for thousands of years. It's our domain, if you will. And so it's not that we don't want their input, it's just that, like, this was our default position. And so it comes through much more strongly, our voice and our vision for it, than theirs.
And I also just think with relationships as well, if one of you takes on that role, and
Right.
sometimes it is it is the guy, if that's how their brain works or that's what they need,
Right. Right. That's true. I guess some men are even more organized.
I always notice it with clients. There's always one who's more of a hoarder or has more stuff, and the other one's more of a minimalist. And I just don't. It's really interesting because this is a yin and yang thing. There's always two different in a relationship.
Interesting. Yeah. I hadn't thought about it in terms of that. Do you see a connection between writing and organizing, between organizing thoughts and organizing physical spaces? What's the connection there for you?
I do. I actually think there's a strong connection between writing and organizing. I think because when you're writing, you're kind of, taking sometimes quite messy thoughts and ideas and experiences, and you're shaping them into something that makes sense. And I think organizing is very much like that. I walk into a space, there's too many things, there's too many decisions, there's no structure, and it's my job to sort through those things and to prioritize it and to create a system. Yeah, for sure. Being a journalist, being a writer and an editor, it taught me the power of a good edit. Right. And that's what people talk about in organising as well.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that.
I think, writing often improves when you take something away rather than it's not about putting things in. When you're editing, it's about what you take away. And that is also something that's just very, very similar with organising. You're removing what's unnecessary. A space becomes simpler and easier to live in when you've removed something.
That makes total sense. I'm even thinking about what you said earlier about organizing, that everything has its place. And it's even like that in the structure of a sentence, like this word or this adjective would better serve here or there. It's like everything needs to be in its place. That's a cool idea. Okay, so we're gonna head right into your business and highlight that you are also a professional organizer by trade these days.
Can you guess?
And have a professional organizing business called Rework the Room, which is such an interesting and complicated field because it's rarely just about the stuff, right? So what drew you into professional organizing?
I was a kid who I used to always reorganize my bedroom. I used to shift the furniture before I knew what feng shui or anything like that was. I didn't even know what it was when I was doing it, but I used to really enjoy switching the furniture in my room and creating really cozy spaces and just sorting things out. I think it just gave me a sense of calm.
You were literally reworking the room.
I
love it.
It really was. What kind of happened, really, how I ended up kind of becoming an organizer was that I was sort of exploring as a writer and a journalist, about the idea of like second career and retraining on what I could do. And I basically decided to write an article and pitched it to a magazine about basically retraining, about the experience of learning a new skill. Mm-hmm. For me, I just chose organising. I found a course and I thought, I'm gonna do this and just see what happens. I literally wasn't planning a business. And then I think from doing that course, I actually realised I had this purpose from that. It was quite extraordinary.
It grew. I completely relate to that with coaching. It's like I have found this other thing that I enjoy, the connection, the conversations, the kind of leveling up and empowerment with women, and making a pivot in your career and getting trained in new skills in your 30s or 40s or 50s even can feel really intimidating, but you have to follow what the inspiration is, I think.
Absolutely. And I knew that a lot of people would be feeling the same thing about various careers or various points. And I just was wanting to explore that, really. It was interesting.
What do you think clutter often represents emotionally?
Clutter's rarely just about stuff, for sure. It's decisions that aren't made yet. It's, things that people aren't ready to let go of. And it also reflects life transition. Yeah, I think home is somewhere where you accumulate all of that stuff from all of those kind of life transitions. And organizing itself is basically helping people decide like what belongs in their life now.
Totally. And I'm thinking actually, I've started to really like change. I used to find it really scary. And now I'm like, bring it on. I'm ready to change some stuff because I notice every time there is a change or a transition, you declutter, you let go of stuff, and you move forward feeling lighter. And so that's why I like change.
Yeah, I'm the same. I've really changed in that.
Like let's shed the skin and let's move into something new.
Completely. I used to be so scared of change, and now I just kind of embrace it.
For women who are perhaps feeling stuck and overwhelmed, how can organizing their space help them move forward?
I think the overwhelm is like this invisible noise. So it's not necessarily that you're like thinking about the clutter, it's that it sort of creates this friction in the background of daily life. And I think when homes don't work, when there's like too much stuff, there's no system, you can't find things, everyday tasks become harder than they need to be, heavier than they need to be. And what organizing does is kind of remove that friction, basically.
I feel like I struggle with that so much because, like, I can't even lay down and watch a show on the couch if there's dishes in the sink. I'm like, let me just go do that first and then I can relax. And part of that's good because then I kind of keep up with things as I go. But I wish I had the mechanism that allowed me to just power down, even if everything wasn't done. And checking the things off the list is the thing that allows me to relax. And I'm like, is that healthy?
I'm exactly the same.
And I don't know if that was wiring from how I was raised, like chores come first and then play comes after that. You know, it's like a hard wire. I don't think it's a bad thing, but I think sometimes it can wait. I think sometimes I prioritize getting the stuff done over spending the time with the people I love. There's this embroidered picture that was up in my home that I remember distinctly. And it said, cleaning and scrubbing can wait till tomorrow because babies grow up. We've learned to our sorrow. So quiet down cobwebs and dust go to sleep for I'm rocking my baby and babies don't keep. And it's like a reminder to mama bears, like, leave it a mess. Just go hang out with them. And I always think about that, but I don't know how to operate like that. You relate, right?
Oh my God, of course.
Okay, well, good. That makes me feel better in and of itself.
Because you were an organized person, that's just how your brain works.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
I think it's more important that you don't make yourself feel bad that you need to do that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because what I'm saying is when there is stuff that is just cluttered around, it might not really occur to you to kind of clear it up, but it's not necessarily good for you to have that, because even if you're not thinking about it, it's that sort of invisible weight. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's the background noise. I know that it's there and I feel unsettled until it gets resolved.
Yeah.
And then
so you're tackling it.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I think that you should not feel guilty about that, because this is quite an interesting topic, because I constantly have that thought in the back of my mind of when I'm in the kitchen, I should be with Maggie. If Maggie's in the other room, I should be enjoying these moments. Do you know what? I think I'm like a happier and calmer mother because I am doing the shit in the kitchen.
Right.
It's not how I think everybody should be.
Right.
But it's what I need. And actually, I think, and it's getting all the thing as well of accepting that's just who I am.
Right.
And I'm absolutely very supportive of other people who are like, that can wait. I'm like, great. I wish I could be like that, but I'm not like that. And actually, I get a dopamine hit, or whatever, from doing those things, just getting them done. I just can't have. That's why I make an organizer, because I just see things and I go, right.
That's true. Like, productivity is my jam.
Absolutely. And don't feel guilty that you should be any other way.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Martha. I appreciate that. Thanks for that consultation. I needed it. Could you name possibly 3 simple steps someone can take this week to create more calm in their home?
I think definitely start small.
Okay.
So it's not about like, I'm going to tackle the kitchen. It's literally, I'm going to tackle that drawer. So say you've got that one contained space. what you're doing is you're then removing things, the power of the edit.
Edit.
You're donating and discarding. And you're not adding anything, so you're not buying any new storage products. You need less stuff. So
Right.
You're basically focusing on removing things, and then you're putting it back intentionally. And what that means is you're not just putting it back, you're thinking about where it actually belongs. So does this actually make sense for your daily routine? It's about
So start in a small space, edit and take away, don't add. And what was the third step?
putting things back intentionally.
Intentionally put them in their place.
Those are the 3 steps to the same process.
I have another thing that just came to mind. Are you just completely horrified with the amount of storage places that are in the United States? Is that an American affliction?
Yeah. Someone's actually asked me that before, and you're right.
It's wild.
It's really interesting.
It's like we just expand to whatever container we're in, and the U.S. decidedly has much more land than the UK. So just everything's bigger, and we have more stuff and more space to have more stuff, and it's a sickness.
Yeah.
You have experienced some big life transitions, moving countries, becoming a mother, evolving professionally. What has helped you stay grounded through change?
I'm somebody obviously who likes order and structure, but life's definitely shown me that I can't manage it all. And so I think what grounds me is kind of coming back to what's in front of me. It sounds corny to say the little things in life, but I think grounding is about like those small things, like the steady parts of life, just the daily routine. I missed one very important question, which is where can people in the Los Angeles area find you and your services with Rework the Room? So I have an Instagram account.
We'll link that underneath the teasers and on the YouTube channel.
Yes. Yeah. So I use Instagram a lot. That's at Rework the Room. And I also have a website, reworktheroom.com.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So folks can find you there directly and book you for a consultation.
Absolutely. There's a little button for booking a discovery call.
Okay. Well, before we close out, I have a list of signature rapid fire questions that I'm going to ask you before I let you go.
Oh my goodness.
I know. So, Martha, name a place on your travel bucket list.
New Zealand.
Lights on or lights off?
Can I have them dimmed?
You can have whatever you like. You are a modern woman.
I love a dimmer switch.
What TV show title describes your life currently?
I love LA.
Chocolate chip cookies or potato chips?
Chocolate chip cookies.
What's a song that's sure to get you on the dance floor?
I've been listening to a lot of 90s music. It's so cheesy. But I've been watching Love Story. Have you seen that?
Yes, and great soundtrack.
Oh right? My god, yeah! I've just been literally putting that into my Spotify.
You forget what great music there was in the 90s.
Duran, turns out I'm a big fan.
Cranberries, let's get back in it. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's definitely my kind of era.
Ace of Base?
Yeah.
Of course. Okay. Who would you pick as your road trip buddy?
My neighbor, Claudia.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the pod, Martha. It was so great to learn more about Rework the Room and just your entire story. So if you listen today, this is a little hint to maybe get organized, take the first step, and don't get overwhelmed by it. Take it slow. Tune back in to Hey Girl, Hey next week for another new episode. Catch up on season 1 and season 2. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.